Well, everyone, this is it. We've reached the final chapter of the story. Finally, the culprit will be revealed. Who is the one responsible for Yoko's death, and why? That's the only thing I want to know. The reason what we all want to know is why. So before we go into the last chapter, we gotta do a quick recap. And I mean the full recap. So without further ado, let's get started. We start from chapter 1 with tragedy. Upon receiving a phone call, Enid and Utsugi rushed down to the scene of the crime. There, they found the police and other authorized personnel already on the scene. The victim's name was Yoko Kojima, a local freshman at Ushimitsu High School. Upon closer examination, it seemed as though she had been strangled. According to her friend Ayumi Tachibana, Yoko had lately been deep into some sort of an investigation on her own. Ayumi mentioned that ever since Yoko had started that particular investigation, she had started to change. Her mannerisms eventually seemed like those of a totally different person. Some light was shed on this when it was discovered that Yoko had a frighteningly relevant dream 1 week before her death. In her dream, she said she saw some kind of girl, soaked in blood. It was coincidentally very similar to an infamous rumor that had been circulating around Ayumi's high school for years. The rumor was known as the tale of the girl in back. This girl in back rumor apparently came into existence some 15 years ago. At that time, one of Ushimitsu High School's students went missing, vanishing without a trace. Could Yoko have stumbled onto something related to this mystery? And furthermore, could it have led to her death? Chapter 2. Puzzling Words. Eager to debunk the mystery, Enid eventually ran into Mr. Tazaki, the school janitor. When asked about Yoko, he seemed to lose his cool almost immediately. It was also learned that Yoko had approached Ayumi a while back, near the school's huge mirror. She left Ayumi with some puzzling words. The girl in back now stands behind you. What could have made Yoko say such a thing? At that point, Yoko was presumably deep into her investigation. The girl in back rumor, which the late Yoko Kojima had been investigating, was now starting to come together. It apparently had something to do with a schoolgirl, Shinobu Asakawa, who had been reported missing 15 years earlier. The janitor, Tazaki, seemed awfully suspicious when confronted about Yoko. It started to seem as though Shinobu's disappearance could have something to do with a murder that occurred around the same time. To confirm this, Enid headed for the police station. Chapter 3. The Kaneda Incident. The victim was a man named Genjiro Kaneda, a local snack bar owner. He had suffered multiple stab wounds and died from an extreme loss of blood. Mr. Kaneda was widely regarded as a swindler, notorious for his unfair collection policies. At first glance, it looked as though it was a crime of hate. Coincidentally, Shinobu Asakawa was present at the Kaneda's house on the day of the murder. It certainly seemed as though Shinobu was murdered along with Mr. Kaneda at this time. The first person to discover Mr. Kaneda was his son, Goro. He apparently came home just after the murder had taken place. On his way home, he reported seeing a large black car passing by on the street, speeding away from the scene of the crime. It was also possible the suspect abducted Shinobu in that car, fleeing the scene of the crime. A few months before the murder, a local factory was forced to shut down because of Mr. Kaneda's shady dealings. The owner of the factory, a man named Teruhiko Uchida, was the main suspect in the Kaneda case. That is, until he committed suicide. There were many other suspects, but their alibis all checked out. To this day, no suspect has ever been apprehended, and the case is still considered open. However, the statute of limitations is set to expire any day now. It's very likely that Yoko had stumbled onto something involving this case while investigating the truth behind the girl in back. It would seem that the suspect has stayed silent all these years until now. If Yoko was murdered only to be silenced, what could she have discovered? Chapter 4: The Girl in Back. The investigation of Yoko Kojima continued. Miss Hayama, a teacher at Ushimitsu High School, was apparently the originator of the girl in back rumor. She claimed to have seen the girl in back 15 years ago on the very same night as the Kaneda murder. She had to come to the school alone late that evening. As she was about to enter the building, she saw a girl standing in front of one of the windows. The girl was covered in blood from head to toe. Miss Ayama described the girl exactly as Yoko did in her dream. After interviewing Miss Hayama, Init went to talk to Mr. Tasaki once more about his dispute with Yoko. Mr. Tasaki once again acted very suspicious. There was no doubt the man was hiding something. It's not yet known whether this has anything to do with the case, but lately an unidentified man has begun to show up on school grounds. Mr. Hibino, Yoko's teacher, still hasn't seemed to have recovered from the shock of Yoko's death. Could the blood-soaked girl Miss Hayama saw truly have been a ghost? Also, could this have something to do with the Kaneda case? It's a remarkable coincidence that this all happened on the same day. How could these events be related to Yoko's killer? And furthermore, what does the high school have to do with all of it? Excuse me. Long ago, Mr. Tasaki was a suspect in the Kaneda case. Back then, he had borrowed a sum of money from Mr. Kaneda, but got into a jam when he couldn't pay it back. However, he provided a sound alibi. At the time of the Kaneda murder, he claimed to have been plastering a crumbled wall at Ushimitsu High School's abandoned building. Mr. Tasaki's alibi was confirmed by Ushimitsu's principal, Tadashi Urabe. Chapter 5: A Peculiar Alibi. Mr. Tasaki instead insisted on his alibi, but simply could not seem to calm down. Principal Urabe stood behind Mr. Tasaki, claiming he stayed late at the school that night, supervising the job until it was finished. This alibi is pretty hard to swallow, though. Could Principal Urabe be a liar? It would go against everything everyone says about the man. If Mr. Tasaki was telling the truth, then shouldn't Miss Hayama have seen him while she was there? Another talk with Miss Hayama seemed to be necessary at this point. It was learned that Miss Hayama did indeed pass by the building that night. When she did, she remembered seeing the wall still unrepaired. In light of this new information, it certainly seemed as though Mr. Tasaki's alibi was on its last leg. Having been caught eavesdropping, Mr. Tasaki ran for his life, mortally fearing what was now known. That evening, Ayumi dropped by the office. As Inet sipped the coffee served to him by his fellow detective, he suddenly started to feel very, very sleepy. Where could she have gone? Chapter 6. The Altruist. The coffee Ayumi served Inet had been drugged. She seemed determined to track down Yoko's murderer on her own. Hot on Ayumi's trail, Inet asked person after person if they'd seen anyone matching Ayumi's description. Inet eventually found himself in the heart of the downtown Galleria. Then suddenly, out of the blue, Inet spotted Principal Urabe in the middle of all the commotion. He was there with a man Inet had never seen before. Continuing to search around, Inet visited Yoko's house. There, her mother lent out a picture of Ayumi. Inet then decided to head for Mr. Tazaki's apartment. Upon learning Ayumi had followed Mr. Tazaki to his hometown, Inet immediately caught the next train to the small village. Before long, Inet caught up with Mr. Tazaki and Ayumi. Having lost all hope, Mr. Tazaki had been driven to the brink of suicide. He soon gave up, confessing everything in blind desperation. As it turned out, Mr. Tazaki had no explanation for his whereabouts during the Kaneda murder. Fearing suspicion, he fabricated the alibi of having plastered the wall. The next morning, he went to the principal, who told Tazaki he would vouch for the false alibi. However, because of the recent investigation, Tazaki feared his cover would be eventually blown. As a former convict, Mr. Tazaki was more than thankful to be taken in by Urabe, and was apparently willing to do whatever necessary in order to protect his secret. Mr. Tazaki had been living in fear all these years. Hinged upon the altruist, that's what it was called, Urabe's lie that had originated 15 years ago. Chapter 7. An Unusual Connection. Principal Urabe admitted to lying about Tazaki's alibi. However, he not once lost his composure without showing the least bit of regret for his actions. Without a doubt, this is one of the traits that has helped him become the man he is today. Seeming to respect Urabe from the bottom of his heart, Hibino showed no sign of doubt in the principal's competency either. Soon afterwards, Inet happened to spot the shady-looking man from the Galleria, hanging around outside the school. As Inet met up with Ayumi, he was introduced to Hitomi Kawai, a hopeful detective who was once good friends with Yoko. It was learned from Hitomi that a mysterious man had been seen with Urabe around the school rather frequently lately. Inet also learned more about the successor to the Kaneda fortune, Goro. According to local rumor, Goro inherited all of his late father's assets and wealth. However, an interesting point to note that Goro is apparently not of Genjiro's bloodline. Nevertheless, ever since he inherited his father's wealth, he has been enjoying a comfortable lifestyle, aimlessly drifting through life as a playboy. Lately, however, he's been showing signs that he squandered his entire fortune and run into some hard times. Chapter 8. Yoko and Shinobu. Inet's reasoning indicated Hibino knows something about the Kaneda incident. However, he isn't singing. And most importantly, there must be some sort of relevance in how that man started showing up at the high school the very day after Yoko was murdered. However, the man's identity and his reason for repeatedly showing up at the school are still unknown. Upon going to the art room once more, Init learned that Shinobu Asakawa modeled for one of the portraits hanging in the room. Shinobu had always been a shy, meek girl. However, that all changed when she started hanging around with Goro. The portrait had been painted by a former student named Ryoko Katsuragi. Init later learned that Yoko had already met and interviewed her. Ryoko mentioned Yoko's mannerisms and way of speaking seemed exactly like Shinobu's. Shinobu is without a doubt still somewhere within Ushimitsu High School. Apparently, Shinobu once had a good friend whose last name was Uchida. However, shortly after the Kaneda incident, he changed schools and moved far away. Could this friend of Shinobu's have been connected to Teruhiko Uchida, the late suspected of the Kaneda murder? Both Goro and this old friend of Shinobu's seemed to be the same age as the man seen hanging around with Principal Urabe. Chapter 9. Initials. Yoko and Shinobu had been cousins, partially explaining the uncanny resemblance of late. However, in her final days, it seemed like it was more than just that. The latest staff rumor was that the principal has suddenly become very eager to sell his house. According to Mr. Kamada, Principal Urabe's wife passed away when they were both still very young, resigning himself to a life of solitude thereafter. Miss Hayama informed me of an accident earlier that day, seeming to involve the girl and back. Fear is soon to reach an uncontrollable level. Something seems to be affecting Ayumi and Hitomi. They haven't been themselves lately. Goro seems to have fallen upon hard times, drinking himself to a stupor on a regular basis. He would often rant at the Sambora. From time to time, he would even claim to know who murdered his father. Upon learning this, I decided to pay a visit to Goro. However, upon reaching his apartment, nothing but the body of the strange man was found. I'm surprised the stab scene wasn't shown there. It then dawned upon me that the man Principal Urabe had been hanging out with was none other than Goro himself. Held tightly in Goro's lifeless hand was a fountain pen with the initials T.U. engraved on its side. Could Goro truly have known the identity of his father's murderer? If so, why did the suspect wait all this time to silence Goro? And furthermore, the initials on the pen, whose could they be? The killers? Chapter 10. A Childhood Friend. Ryoko Katsuragi contacted Ine on the morning of the 10th, mentioning a woman named Sayaka Ishibashi, a mutual friend of Shinobu and the Uchida boy. It was learned there that Principal Urabe used to drive a large black car back in the days when the Kaneda incident took place. While waiting for Sayaka to arrive, Init took a trip down to the Sambora. There, Init learned that Goro had visited the establishment recently. While watching TV, he allegedly saw something that made him exclaim wildly about finally being able to be rich once again. And so, after finally getting a chance to speak with Sayaka, Init learned that Shinobu's old friend was in fact Teruhiko Uchida's son. Init later realized Goro must have been watching an evening news broadcast about the principal when he exclaimed at the bar a few days beforehand. As Sayaka showed Init a yearbook containing a picture of the Uchida boy, and it realized it was actually none other than Mr. Hibino. Mr. Hibino and the Uchida boy were one and the same all along. Hibino told Inet that after his father's suicide, his mother took him away to live with their side of the family in another town, effectively changing their last name to Hibino. Well, his last name. Stricken with grief, he had nowhere to turn without a father. Luckily, Principal Urabe stepped in and treated the boy as though he were his own. Hibino eventually graduated from college and landed a teaching career at Ushimitsu, all thanks to the principal. Shinobu had lost a friend on the account of Mr. Uchida's death. Confronted with the fact of how the Kanedas were essentially responsible for all that happened, Mr. Hibino's hate seemed unfathomable. At that point, it seemed clear that the real suspect was in fact Principal Urabe, which Hibino simply could not accept. Upon hearing this, Mr. Hibino, more violent than ever, insisted on proving his mentor's integrity. And thus, we finally reached the last chapter in the story. Chapter 11, Insanity. Wow, that was so much to read. And I don't have a bottled water with me, so my mouth might get dry during this last chapter. Excuse me. Yeah, that's a lot to absorb. A lot. So let's continue on. We're almost done with the story. This is the front of the high school. It's so bleak out here, as though the clouds could break any minute. No one's outside. And that's weird. Like, this is the first time I've seen the choices side come up slowly. It usually comes like very quickly, but this time it went like it comes up very slowly, as to, make it blend in with the atmosphere that's going on right now. And I'm not sure if you can hear the music well, but yeah, it's kind of eerie, kind of suspenseful. Because we've reached the final chapter. And the suspect, the real culprit, will finally be revealed. So, without further ado, here we go. So the first place we got to go to is the art room. Wow, it's so creepy though. Enid? What's with the long face? Was it something I said the other day? Truth be told, you did scare me. You did scare me. I know it was just a joke, but you scared me. Alright. Let's hear about Urabe. Oh, for the record, I am using a spoiler-free guide, so that way I don't have to hear the story in the guide. Okay, I really don't think Principal Urabe could be a killer. It's absurd to even think of such a thing. Okay, what about the car? The principal was the owner of a large black car 15 years ago, correct? Yes, he did own one a long time ago. But seeing as how the principal was away on business at that time, at the time of Goro's murder, how could he be the killer? Principal Urabe is not a murderer. Well, I mean, if the evidence shows that it is him, then there's no denying it. Principal Urabe is the culprit if the evidence fits. I will hold no more of these pointless conversations. Good day. Wow, it got dark. There are certainly a lot of black cars out there, and furthermore, the principal is supposedly away on business. If Principal Urabe was truly away on business at the time of the Goro murder, then Kamada's right. He couldn't have been the murderer. Taking away the possibility of Urabe, my next best lead is now Mr. Hibino. Well, let's go to the staff room now. Ah, detective. Mr. Hibino came through here a short while ago. He seemed awfully angry about something. Alright. Let's ask about Miss Hayama. The last I saw of her was yesterday, when that student was injured. Really now? Wait a sec. Didn't Miss Hayama say she had to tell the principal about the student's injury? If Hayama can verify that she contacted the principal while he was away on his trip, then what would confirm his alibi? Have you seen Miss Hayama at all today? No, I haven't seen her lately. Oh boy. Let's go to the front of the school. I need to get going soon as well. Better safe than sorry, if you ask me. This storm's going to be a nasty one. This sure is one foul day, ain't it? Can't you feel it? There's just something in the air. It feels dreadful. Whoa, Ayumi. Hey, Nit. Ayumi, I've discovered so much since I last saw you. Sorry, I can't talk right now. I've got to take a makeup test for Mr. Hibino. I missed a ton of stuff that day I chased Mr. Tazaki to Marufuku. I'll try and meet up with you at the office later on today, unless I get caught in the storm. I hate this weather. Yoko always used to say, I wish I didn't have to be in school on a day like this. The clouds look just like they did the day it happened. In it feels like she's standing behind me all the time anymore. Shinobu's somewhere inside that school. There's just no other explanation. See you soon, Enid. It's weird. The dialogue went from beeps to like something you would hear on a typewriter or like a computer or something. There must be some strange dialogue going on. I have reason to believe Shinobu is still somewhere within Ushimitsu High School. There's no doubt in my mind. What could Yoko have meant when she said that? That her spirit was still roaming the school in the guise of the girl in back. Wait a second. If the bloodstained girl Miss Hayama saw was Shinobu, alive but wounded, then that black car must have made a stop here on the night of the Kaneda murder. Is it possible Yoko meant the killer hid Shinobu's body somewhere inside the school? Before anything else, I need to verify Urabe's alibi. It seems Miss Hayama holds the key to all the answers at this point. Alright, so we gotta go to we have to find Miss Hayama. So we're gonna go into the old building now. She might be there, I hope. Alright, so we're gonna look around. I'm starting to get worried. I've got to find Miss Hayama soon. Standing all the way out here isn't going to help. It makes me wonder, though. Why would Miss Hayama have come by here while running home? It's an awfully big detour. Alright, let's see. Open? Wait a minute. This is just a theory, but I have a feeling that Shinobu's body is behind that wall. This is just a theory, that's what I'm saying, so. But yeah, this is just a theory. Okay, so Shinobu may be hidden somewhere within the school even now. What an unbearable thought. Well, it says in the guide that I'm in the school building. So, placement movement. Oh, here we go. Init? Oh, oh my goodness, she scared me. Miss Hayama, what are you doing out here? Okay. Miss Hayama, did you manage to get a hold of Principal Urabe yesterday? I called the hotel he said he was going to be staying at, but they didn't have any record of him ever checking in. What? After I got off the phone with the hotel, I called his house and spoke with him there about the injured student. Why? What's wrong? The principal's alibi is falling apart. Shinobu may be hidden somewhere within the school, even now. What an unbearable thought. What are you doing out here? I could ask you the same question. Someone double parked and blocked the gate, so I had to come through here on my way in. Oh my! Huh? That's right, I remember now. That's the reason I had to come through here 15 years ago, too. There was a car out here blocking the gate, so I ran through here instead. It was a big black car, I think. Yes, I remember it looked familiar. It wasn't there when I arrived at school either. Whoever it was got there after I did. Miss Hayama, I have a reason to believe Shinobu's body was hidden in this school that night. You say you saw a large black car here at the school when you ran through here. Shinobu may very well have been in that car. Oh, wow. Shinobu was here that night? If that's true, then there's only one place she could be. Enid, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Yes, I am. It's possible. The criminal must have stuffed her body in that wall and sealed it over with plaster. If that's the case, then I think it's time for another chat with Mr. Tazaki. I think this is where I better get the final word from that shifty janitor. Looks like we're gonna go talk to Mr. Tazaki now. What's wrong now? Alright, let's talk about the wall. On the night of the Kaneda murder, was it really you who plastered the wall? Yeah, of course it was me. You still don't trust me, do you? I want to trust him, but... Did you see a large black car anywhere at the school that night? There was somebody at the school. Ooh. Oh, it was... Insights. Why do you keep asking so much about that stupid wall? You still don't trust me, do you? The fact is, I have reason to believe that there's conclusive evidence for the Kaneda case in that wall. In other words, the murder weapon may have been sealed inside it, along with Shinobu Asakawa herself. What? Mr. Tazaki, have you told me the entire truth up until now? Well, no. I mean, not really, I guess. Oh boy. It was me who plastered the wall. But after I laid the plaster, I decided to take a walk and clear my head while it dried. I accidentally left my bucket of plaster there, so it's possible somebody could have stuck her in there and resealed it while I was away. That's what really happened. You really think Shinobu is in the wall? I know. I know I sound suspicious, but I swear I'm telling you the honest truth. Hey, there's something else. The next morning when I went to get my power drill, I noticed something. It looked like someone has been using my tools. I was sure of it. I never thought anything of it till now. These aren't really the kind of details that ever seem important. Alright, let's think. I've got to see what's in that wall. Utsugi needs to know about this too. Please, find the killer soon. Please. But, well, It can't be the principal. It just can't be. You won't do anything to him, will you? If all evidence does point to Principal Urabe, then he has to be our murderer. He has to be our suspect. So, you believe Shinobu's body is sealed into a wall of the old school building? Well, Enid, I can see you've worked quite a lot. I assume you probably have a suspect in mind by now. Enid, I've come to some conclusions as well. I know who the owner of the pen is. The question is, do you? The owner of the pen is this person. It has to be. Correct. We need to be very careful of the principal from here on out. He's very intelligent and could do anything at this point. Alright, let's think. Could the killer really be Principal Urabe? Boss, that wall. I know, Enid. We'll get to it in due time. Right now, we need to focus on apprehending Urabe. I'm going to be monitoring the situation from the police station. Good work, Enid. We couldn't have done it without you. And so he's gone. I can't believe it. Despite all this recognition, could the principal be nothing more than a common criminal? When he was talking about his grief for Yoko and his trust in Tazaki, I didn't get the slightest suspicion that he was lying. However, if he's the killer, why did he corroborate Tazaki's alibi? Wait, of course! It proved an alibi for himself as well. For all I know, he could even been planning to reveal the lie if he ever became a suspect to throw suspicion on Tazaki. The real criminal, Principal Urabe? Whew, wow. Hang on a second. If all this is true, then Urabe must have murdered Genjiro, Goro, and Yoko, as well as Shinobu. The 3 current murders make sense, but why? Why would he have murdered Kaneda 15 years ago? It doesn't add up. Alright, let's answer the phone. Utsugi Detective Agency. Detective, I'm going to share with you something not many people know. Principal Urabe is far from what you think. A long time ago, this so-called Good Samaritan had a hand in Mr. Kaneda's shady affairs. What? Who is this? Someone who hates that lowlife from the bottom of his heart. Well, Mr. Hibino. It's Mr. Hibino. I know that dialogue anywhere. Someone who hates that lowlife from the bottom of his heart. Let me tell you, he's at the school right now. He's what? Hello? They hung up. Oh no, I left Ayumi at the school all by herself. She's in danger. Ayumi, you're safe. Huh? What's going on? Enid lets out a sigh of relief as he finds Ayumi and Hibino safe in front of the high school. Whew, this is getting very, very good. Alright, so let's continue on. Ayumi, did you see the principal anywhere? No, I didn't see anybody in there, but Mr. Hibino. I was in the classroom the whole time, though, taking his test, so I really couldn't be sure if anybody else was in there or not. Oh, wow. Mr. Hibino was supervising me take the test the whole time. I don't think he'd know either. The principal isn't back yet from his business trip. Really? I just got an anonymous tip at the office just a minute ago. They said that the principal is here right now. What? We've got to get to the principal's office. It's locked from the inside. Enid rams the door as hard as he can. Who the heck is that? Oh. There they find Principal Urabe face down on his desk, lying in a pool of blood. Principal! Principal Urabe! Alright, let's check around the vicinity. Everything was locked, even the windows. What in the world? He's already gone. He appears to have been stabbed. There's an envelope over there by the body. So let's take the envelope and open it. Inside the envelope, Enid finds a note written on school letterhead. To whom it may concern. I dare not call myself an educator any longer, after having allowed myself to commit so many atrocious crimes. You see, I was once nothing more than a henchman in the late Mr. Kanera's schemes, but before long, he started to get in my way. So, on the night of November 10th, 15 years ago, I murdered him in cold blood. It would have been the perfect crime had it not been for a single eyewitness, Shinobu Asakawa. To my astonishment, she had seen everything, so as she tried to escape, I pursued her in my vehicle. It was then I ran her down and fled the scene with her body in my trunk as fast as I could. All these years, I had kept this secret hidden, hoping no one would ever find out. But then, suddenly, two people appeared who knew of my dark past. One was a detective by the name of Yoko Kojima. I watched helplessly as she uncovered the facts, one by one, inexorably approaching the truth. The other was Goro Kaneda. It was then that I realized he must have seen me flee after I had murdered his father. This sudden shock was simply too much for me. Fearing my secret would be exposed, I took the matter into my own hands once again, and silenced Yoko and Goro before either could reveal what they knew. The fool that I am, I only afterwards realized that these acts would ultimately seal my fate. I only regret I hadn't realized earlier there was no need to hide the truth for so long. And so, I die in shame. Please believe me, for I am but a shell of a man. Forgive me. I was left with no other choice. Tadashi Urabe. No. So this is it. Principal Urabe, of all people, was a cold-blooded murderer. And so, Init now realizes the phone call must have come from Urabe himself, a last-minute cry for help. Principal. Come on, let's head back to the office. We need to contact the authorities. This can't be. Principal Urabe is no murderer. I can prove it. You see, I'm the killer. If only you hadn't come along. Init! I would have gotten away with everything and he'd still be alive. Ever since that day, 15 years ago, after my missing father phoned me to say he'd taken poison, I made up my mind that I had nothing left to live for except to see Genjiro Kaneda die by my own hands. I left my own last words on the principal's answering machine, then took a knife to Kaneda. That's when Shinobu came in and saw everything. Genjiro lying on the floor, the bloody knife, and me. Murderer! Standing there in shock, I quickly realized what I had to do. She knew it as well as I did, and ran. It wasn't long after she escaped that I heard the sound of screeching brakes from down the road when I caught up with her. I saw a black car there, stopped just in front of her. Shinobu was lying on the street, motionless. It was Principal Urabe. He'd got my message and came hurrying to stop me. But he was far, far too late. So after quickly stuffing her in the trunk, we drove to the high school. I dragged her into a remote classroom in the abandoned school building, leaving her there for dead. I watched her lay there, regretting ever getting either of them involved. But then a second later, I looked back at her, and she wasn't there. Since she was standing at the window crying for help. She'd only been unconscious. Looking out the window, I realized there was a girl down there. I thought for sure she'd seen us. I couldn't take it. My mind went blank. Next thing I knew, I was holding a broken vase and Shinobu was lying at my feet. Looking down at her, I knew she wasn't going to get up this time. After that, I ran home as fast as I could. The next day, I went to see the principal, who said this to me. Forget everything. The principal helped me, and Goro knew it all along. That weasel. I only wish I'd killed him sooner. Seeing an opportunity, Inet grabs Ayumi's hand, and together they rushed out of the room. No, not that way. It's a dead end. Suddenly, Inet realized they'd taken a wrong turn as they come face to face with the huge mirror. There's nowhere left to run. They're trapped. Oh no. Inet! Oh boy. Ayumi and Inet turned as pale as ghosts as they hear Hibino's footsteps slowly draw closer and closer. Yoko once confronted me right where you stand now, asking me this. Sir, back in the old days, you killed someone, didn't you? As I stood there staring at her, I saw her face turn from doubt to anger to fear, taking on an expression that was the exact same as Shinobu's 15 years earlier. As the forgotten feelings of guilt and animosity suddenly overwhelmed me, I suddenly cried out, yes, that's right. I killed you. I killed you 15 years ago, and I'll kill you now. In a blind rage, I wrung her little neck right then and there, until long after she stopped breathing. Oh my God. I hadn't meant to kill her. I hadn't meant to kill her. In a fit of confusion, I just dropped her body there and ran home. However, they found her body in a runoff miles from here. Why? She died here. Why did they find her there? No matter. I'll make sure no one finds you nearly as easily. I've managed to keep this secret safe until now. It creeps closer and closer. And I don't intend to stop here. Inet! Oh! As Hibino lunges, Inet pulls out of the way just in the nick of time. Hibino's knife strikes the mirror, shattering it into a thousand pieces. Turning away from the mirror, Hibino once again confronts the two. But then, suddenly, from behind the mirror, a skeleton dressed in a schoolgirl uniform falls onto Hibino. Shinobu? Utsugi and Maruyama suddenly come rushing onto the scene. They can do nothing but stand there, staring in disbelief. Inet, that day, in the mirror. This is what Yoko meant all along. Saying this, Ayumi faints. Ayumi! Ine carries Ayumi away, far from the crime scene. Oh, wow. Oh, man. Oh, wow. That was just crazy. Very crazy. Well, Enid, that really was something, wasn't it? I owe you my deepest gratitude for doing all you did. We never could have done this without you. And so the two talked at length about everything that happened. So, Hibino was the source of his own undoing. Yep, and Shinobu's body wasn't in the old building after all. Urabe must have put her behind the mirror after she was murdered. That's probably why Mr. Tasaki said his tools looked as though they'd been used. I bet it was the principal who dumped Yoko's body into the river as well. He sure got in over his head when he agreed to help Hibino lie. I recently learned Urabe never even dealt with Kaneda until the murder happened. But he did have a secret of his own to hide. He killed Shinobu, even if it was an accident. Huh? I thought Hibino killed her by smashing her head with a vase. Yes, that's what he claimed in his confession. But forensics has told me that while such a blow would have caused massive damage to her skull, no signs of any such fracture were found, not even delivered post-mortem. In other words, they're telling me Shinobu died in the car accident. But that doesn't make sense. Why would Mr. Hibino have claimed she was yelling at the window if she died in the accident? Don't tell me you're still hung up on that ghost story angle, aren't you? But seriously, there's something I want to talk to you about. Due to recent events, I've decided to take on another staff member. Ayumi. From this day forward, she will be a full-fledged employee of the Utsugi Detective Agency, same as you. Isn't it neat, Enid? I can't believe it. After all we've been through, I'm going to be your partner now. I'm still trying to get over what happened with Yoko and Shinobu. By the way, what's the word on Mr. Hibino? Well, I hope now he's finally free of the demons that had haunted him for so long. I just hope he can forgive himself for what he's done. And the pen? Oh, that? Apparently it was a gift from the principal to Hibino back when he entered college. It seems to have been very important to Hibino. He apparently carried it with him everywhere. But he was calling himself Hibino by that time, not Uchida. Shouldn't the pen's engraving have read TH? That's a good question, Enid. Having said that, Ayumi, what do you say we go grab something to eat? Sure, let's go. Hey, what about me? So much has happened in the past few days. I just can't believe it. Principal Urabe turned out to be a decent man after all. His only fault was feeling pity for others and helping to cover up their mistakes. Going through as a childless widower, it seems as though time and time again he would selflessly act in his friend's best interests. Doing the best he could, he helped Hibino through life, treating him as though he were his own. And about that pen, I realized the TU engraving must have stood for Mr. Hibino's original name, Tatsuya Uchida. However, I can't help but think when the principal had made it, he really meant for it to be Tatsuya Urabe. His son. Well, everyone, that's it. That's Famicom Detective Club Part 2. The Girl in Back. If only I can play the first game, but unfortunately the only way I can play it in English is if I had a Nintendo Switch, which unfortunately I don't own a Switch. The only thing I can do now is just wait, and hopefully someone in the ROM hacking community can make an English translation for the Famicom disc versions of the game. And this game is actually a prequel to the first game. Hold on, let me turn down the volume a bit. But yeah, this is actually a prequel to the first game. So yeah, this is basically the protagonist's origin story, how he became a detective. Because in the original game, he's already a detective. The only thing I can figure out is that at the beginning of that story, he has come down with amnesia. So that's pretty much all I know. So, man, what a ride. What a ride. Hopefully this video didn't last an hour, like way past an hour. But we'll see. I'll see when I do all the editing. But man, what a ride. Suspenseful. Scared me a bit, but oh well. Hey, that's part of the life of a detective. You never know what's gonna come at you. Oops, I must have hit my headset. But anyways, that's it for you. That's it for Famicom Detective Club. Now I can finally start playing Jurassic Park for the Super Nintendo and Metroid Zero Mission for the Game Boy Advance. And hopefully I will get back to SNK vs. Capcom Card Fighters. I also want to finish that game too. And that one is a bit longer. I wonder if there's any post-credit scene. It's a shame I can't skip any of it. Yeah, I'm trying to push buttons here, but yeah, I don't think I can. Nope, I can't skip the credits. You gotta look at the credits as it is. And I guess the credits are over now. By Team Shikamaru of R&D 1. Let's see if there's any post-credit scenes. Well, still more credits though. I guess I'll be right back to see if there's any post-credit scenes. So for now, just let's just be patient. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I just noticed that I saw the late Gunpei Yokoi's name there as part of the special thanks, and there's Nintendo Power. So let's see if there's any post-credit scene by Nintendo. Excuse me. So let's see if there's any post-credit scene. Usually when it comes to movies, they'll always have a post-credit scene, but let's see. Oh! 2 years later, on one particular day. Utsugi Detective Agency, Enid speaking. Hello, Detective. My name is Zenzo Tanabe. I'm calling from Myojin Village. There is a matter I wish to speak with you about in person. Myojin Village? That's not too far. Alright, I'll be there in an hour. Ayumi, I'm going out. Enid, where are you going? To be continued in Famicom Detective Club, The Missing Heir. Yeah, that leads to the events of the first game. Thank you very much, Enid 2. We hope you've enjoyed the game. And so, having been promoted to the rank of detective, it's now time for your personality assessment. You have shown yourself to be fundamentally good. However, you are occasionally tempted to tease those around you. Additionally, are you sure you aren't just a little absent-minded some of the time? Is the game evaluating me? I think it is. Also, you've got a very keen sense of intuition. And let's see. You're definitely a practical joker, that's for sure. This is the end of the personality assessment. Yeah, they were evaluating me. Well, how was that? If this personality assessment inaccurately described you in any way, we apologize for the inconvenience. Have a nice day. And finally, it's time to find out how compatible you are with Ayumi. Oh boy, let's see how the main character and Ayumi are compatible. And the result is Ayumi's love rating. Ugh. Well, I mean, it's something. It's something. It's weird, but it's something. You. How dare you be afraid of me? Wait, isn't that from the beginning of the game? You shouldn't say bad things, or my French father will get very angry. We should get together and study sometime. Yeah. That was weird. But anyways, that's it, everyone. That's Famicom Detective Club Part 2, The Girl in Back. If they ever make a translation for the Famicom Disk System version of Famicom Detective Club, The Missing Heir, I'll do a Let's Play on that when it comes out. Or someday, if I ever get a Nintendo Switch, I'll probably get it off the eShop. But we'll see what happens. But anyways, that's it. That's the end of the playthrough. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. See you next game. And God bless.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, leave a like and or comment down below. If you want to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel. And don't forget to click that notification bell to receive updates on the latest videos. Take care, see you again, and God bless.